Canceled. Welcome to Canceled. We're here today with one of my favorite people,
Hi.
Carrie.
Thank you
Carrie,
for
the
having
famous
me.
lawyer,
It
journalist.
is Caryma, but
Carrie, for short. No, I can't call you Carrie.
you can call me Carrie.
All right, I'll call you Carrie. I think I called you a lot worse than that, right?
Yeah, we have enough history that I will
So
take Carrie. That's fine.
I can start with an apology. I'd like to say we got up on the wrong foot. This is back during the Freedom Convoy. And I'm going to be the bigger person and apologize. So I'd like to formally apologize
You're
for.
not the bigger person.
Well, I am. My last name's bigger, right? It's literally written in my name. But yeah, okay. I just like to say sorry. I'd like to start off, and we'd like to have a nice civil conversation about all the work you've done. And we have you here today in my humble home. And welcome to my Van Boxel lair.
Thank you for having me. We are proof that unity is achievable.
It is.
Right?
Very much so.
Unlike the protests that you sort of get yourselves in the middle of. So that I would actually like to hear about that right off the hop, if that's possible, about the most recent one you went to and like how you're feeling about it and how you got into just sticking yourself in the trenches, so to speak.
Well, just yesterday, February 21st, we were downtown Toronto, and there was a Canada First rally, and their sort of central platform is anti-mass immigration. And then there was a counter protest that was mostly, I would say, an Antifa style counter protest. And then within the Canada First rally, you had Dominion Society and Second Sons supporters who were not so in favor of the Canada First, but in line with kind of some of what he is putting out there. And then you had some pro-Palestine / anti-Israel protesters who were also on the periphery. So it was sort of a medley.
Like the Royal Rumble.
There was a lot going on, pretty much. I'm waiting for the buzzer next entrant.
So how do you keep it together? Like how when you're down there, do you know who's who and like what the point of each protest is? Like how do you even know? Because it seems like everybody's out protesting whether they understand the issues or not.
Yeah, what's the point is kind of a loaded, I don't know that anyone ever has a full answer to that. And some groups are more cohesive in their messaging than others. But I've been doing this for, since the end of 2020. So I have a pretty good sense of who's who in the zoo. There's always new people emerging, new issues, new causes. But there are also some sort of steady figures. And, you just kind of get a sense of it by being there in person, and interacting sometimes, or even interacting online at times. And, I'm there to document. So there's, I don't show up in order to express myself in the same way as a protester necessarily. I'm not there with a message, a specific message relating to any of the underlying issues. But I am interested in what others have to say and how civil liberties are exercised and how law enforcement and media and politicians engage with all of that. So that is my form of expression, documenting what goes on and sharing it through my lens.
But it seems like people assume they know why you're there, and it's almost like you're there documenting, and each side wants to take a shot at you. So it's like the cream is here against me. No, she's against me. So like, how does that make you feel when you show up there?
It's kind of I'm a walking target. My videographer is a walking target at times. Not all groups are hostile. So there are some individuals who are hostile. There are some movements that are largely hostile. But we try to navigate that just with good humor and kind of spatial awareness, and knowing who's around us at any given moment.
I think that's part of why people get upset when they see you, because you're very funny online. Like you're very dry humor, but like your comments, and then when you make the video and you post it, like very articulated. Like it's like there's like a knife to their heart, and it's like, so it's the way you post, and it gets a lot of people worked up.
Why is that? How she made you feel, Josh, or what?
I honestly, I'll tell you how I first met Carrie, and I was told by other people that she was an informant type of thing. This is like during the freedom movement, so I was misled, I think, and it kind of didn't. It didn't age well. We kind of. I think we were both at the same. Now that I've followed you, I've watched your content for years now. I think we almost have the same goals, right? We want to show people a different perspective of everything, right? So I mean, and you've changed way you've presented yourself as
Yeah,
well a
in
lot.
fairness to you, kind of that was we encountered each other in a relatively early phase of me doing this, and so I was kind of I hadn't really set on a clear objective yet. I didn't really consider myself a journalist at that point. I was just sort of documenting these rallies that media was ignoring and then just posting my little clips. And, I think I was maybe a bit heavy handed at times in trying to wade into what was underlying. And then,
Anti-vaxxer was your
you know,
hashtag, right? That got a lot of people upset. I remember that's what you,
yes.
you nailed
And
me
then,
with that,
and then
right? 'Cause I was
and then
really defensive about that
I
at the
stopped
beginning.
using that hashtag
I
after
mean,
I
I
had a
remember that.
conversation with someone. I don't think it was with you. But it was just a guy and he's like, "Why do you tag those?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, because it's like consistent and that way you can find all my posts and it works with the algorithm." He's like, "Yeah, okay, fine. Like, sure from that perspective, but have you thought about how blah blah?" And I was like, "No, I hadn't." So I nixed that.
I know. I
I
remember
nixed
you
that
doing all
hashtag.
that. That was
Yeah.
why, like, I remember lashing out at you guys. I think it was because you wanted a picture. You had a fur coat on. I had a fur
Yes.
coat on. And
Yes.
we're like, do not talk to them. They're undercover agents from like Israel, right? And I'm like, I'm like, can we get a picture with you, Mr. Freedom? I'm like, hell no, anti-vaxxers, right? So like, I was really on the defense, and I think that. That's just the way it was. They wanted
Yeah.
everybody involved with the freedom movement. They were trying to divide us, and they still are. So even that's what you see in these protests. Like looking at there's the Second Sons, and then there's Joe that's kind of leading the Canada First movement,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
And then you just see they're just fighting over the same thing, and that's what they want. So I mean, I stopped going to protests because I just didn't have the energy to sit there and argue with we've done you guys have documented a lot of our protests throughout the school boards and the
Mhm.
pride and the transgender stuff and now what I do instead of protesting against the government, I'm protesting against people that harm children in my community, which feels a lot better. And you guys have joined us in some of that documentation of putting what we call sexual predators on blast, right? We notify everyone in the neighborhood where these people live, and I think that's common ground where I found I let go of the protest. People ask me, "Are you going to the Canada First?" And I'm like, I did it for 2 years, and I didn't ask for a donation. Like just like you do it out of your pocket to because out of the passion you have for showing people the reality of what's happening out there. And yeah, I packed my suitcases up and we never went back to protesting the government because they got a lot more money than I do.
It is not you're not on an even playing field by
Not at
any
all.
stretch of the imagination.
And
Yeah.
then when you put yourself out there and you say the wrong thing
Mhm.
at one of these things like that, and then it's everywhere, right? Like you have these people arguing over the same point. They want their country back to what it was like before COVID, and they're or arguing, and that's what you're going to Toronto. It's going to cost you fuel, food, and what to argue with someone that's a Canadian.
Yeah. And probably some dignity as well.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I lost that a long time ago, Carrie. You know that, right?
And it also seems like arguing for no resolve. I feel like a lot of these protests that are happening and people are just throwing shit at each other, nothing ever gets solved. There's never any actual discussion. Everyone's angry. So it's like if it like the it's like the Antifa thing. If you don't believe what I believe, you're a fascist. But it doesn't make any sense. They're literally representing fascism at these rallies. It seems because they don't want to have any discussion. It's
No.
just like they wear a mask. You can't see me. Believe what I believe, or you're a
All right,
fascist.
yeah.
I think there is some cathartic value that protesters will find in the yelling, in the screaming, in the sort of marching. Like there is potential for that. And how effective is protest? It can actually pressure policymakers and like so it's not a totally futile exercise, but my general observation is that while most people may show up and be well intentioned, the general direction of things leads people to conflate activism with various forms of harassment. And I'm being an activist because I am screaming in this person's face or blocking their path or preventing this show from happening and then it's a totally long list of crazy things that I've seen over the past 5 years that really aren't like are not really civil disobedience or not really civil engagement. It's intimidation, it's harassment, and it can be effective, but is that a good thing? I'm not sure.
And some of those things have ended up in some lawsuits as well. You said that there's a few things that you've got going on.
What's the craziest
We
one?
won't get into like crazy details about it, but is there anything you can tell us about? And was it because of this, somebody getting in your way or assaulting you in some way?
Most of my lawsuits that I'm involved in actually relate to defamation, so spoken word or written word, and people who have a vested interest in deliberately mischaracterizing me and my work, and are active in that misleading, and where I'm going to like suggest that it is intentional and malicious. And reputation is a very tricky thing. Particularly, like, my background is as a lawyer, so I trade on my name. But even beyond that, in this digital age, social media world, like, it doesn't take much, for smears to spread and take root. And so, yeah, that is one front on which I have these battles. There is a legal front to all of this.
Yeah, it happens with businesses. It's so easy to online. Like for me, I mean, I think I'm guilty of, of some of these things doing to other people, but they come at you. They can give you a 0-star review. Like when I did my joke about charging liberals, I think I had like 1,200 0-star reviews, like 8 seconds, and then like everyone I worked with was getting a phone call, like Primeline Tools. There's this like lady, I think her name was like, my name's Ellen, and I'm never buying his roof and shovel again. Like all these threats from all over the world. And like I literally had to shut down my business phone because we were getting 800 calls a day. They put me in some type of loop, filled up your inbox.
Yep.
So I literally shut down my business. I had to like,
That's how I got started in
yeah.
this, right? I made a comic about Chris Sky, and he didn't like it, and then put me on blast to his followers. And then all of a sudden, I was inundated with all of these 1-star reviews and negative ratings. And then it was like, okay, I'm kind of at a juncture where I can either pack it up and let's try to regain some sense of normalcy, or like lean right in.
You
And
lean right.
here I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
in your bunker.
Here's to having a bunch of 0-star reviews with your business. Pound that out. Yeah, yeah. That means nowadays everyone knows that means you're doing something right.
We are
right?
uncancelable,
Yeah.
right? I've developed a thick skin.
Yeah,
There's nothing anyone can say.
well, that's the thing. Like they're like, we're going to cancel this guy's roofing business. I'm like, okay, I live in a small community. You've seen where I live. My family's been here before Canada was a country. My family's active in the fire department. My grandfather was a firefighter and Lions member and all that. So like all the people in the states and there's a million people that hate me, but like Jerry down the street is still going to need me to do his roof. It's a shitty job. It's not like there's anyone taking my job. That was the funny part. Like, oh, I got cancel you. I'm like, I live in Canada. The population is 400 people. Like, you ain't going to cancel a farm boy here. But you probably got a lot worse being in the big city. I remember watching a video where like you had people go right into your office, started filming and documenting. But that was like a retaliation because you did it to them at their restaurant.
Well, they made their restaurant the center of a protest.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, there were and maybe it's because of my legal training, but I'm constantly sort of distinguishing situations, and I feel like that nuance is often lost on the broader population. Although we move past that, we're okay. I have had people surveil my office, put up stickers of my videographer's face that lead to defamatory websites, and just really like nasty
That's
stuff.
free marketing. I always say the left has free marketing. I actually owe the left. Anyone watching that tried to cancel me, they're my best marketing team for free. So if you ever want to do really well, just piss one of these groups off that are protesting, and you'll definitely get free marketing. I'm not going to tell you like what kind of marketing is going to be, but it's going to get out there.
Propelled to the highest heights.
Yeah,
for sure.
My best marketing team, bought and paid for.
That actually leads to my next question: is why do you think it's so popular? Like we were talking earlier, it seems that everybody's protesting something. There's like, the Polish against Armageddon, or like, all these random things that you're just like, what is this? What does it even mean? But anyways, why do you think that it's so popular over the past 10 years, especially that I've noticed? Like people are always out to, make their voice heard.
I think that there's probably a bunch of factors at play. One obvious one is people are unhappy. Like there is a deep sense of unrest and distress, and protest is one way that people will try to channel that frustration, maybe in the hopes of making things better, or maybe just as an outlet for negativity. So I think that is underlying it. Then you have social media and the way that we interact with people. On the one hand, it connects people who have, whatever grievance, that they maybe otherwise wouldn't have found each other. Now they can and do, and they're in forums and on exchanging messages and, let's go meet in person. And so there's that community building aspect. And then there's also the way social media dehumanizes us and the way that people will comment and be really gross to one another online, then that translates into their real world behavior. And I think that it's addictive. I think that there is an addictive component to this particular phenomenon. There's probably more, but that's what comes to my mind.
You feel like you're vindicating yourself. Like this is what you believe in. You feel like you can go out there and they document, they put it on social media, they get likes for it. You can get a lot of viewership if you post protest stuff. I mean, that's why some people will go down there just to film and then you'll capture some lunatics going at it and like, okay, I'm gonna put that on X. I'm gonna get 1 million views for sure, right?
There's also a social currency to it, right? Like what you're describing, that clout is a real motivator, right? There can be other incentives as well, but I think that's a big one. And I had a thought and it is evaporating because I think we're being hotboxed.
Yeah. Well, I would think like
it is a roofing. This is a roofing shop, so it might be hotboxing here. It may or may not be marijuana.
It would be nice to normalize the opposite, where you actually get to hear some discussion and you actually get to hear some thoughts from each side, and they dissect those thoughts together without all of the nonsense.
Well, that's what cell phones have brought us. They call it a device for a reason. It really it's divisive, and people can just so easy to say you're a fucking idiot or you're a piece of shit, and then okay, I'm gonna make fun of your kid's picture. I'm like that. Like it gets wild. Like you would go back 15 years ago, and you would never as you do stuff like that, you get punched in the face.
There was decency, and there was a sense of you might get punched in the face.
Canada was always such a friendly. Like we were known for maple syrup, saying "a" and being super polite. Now it's like
that's out the window.
It's gone.
It is. We are deeply divided. And what I was going to say is it sort of ties into your point. Depending on what sort of information silo people are in and what echo chamber they're in, they may be fed a narrative that really puts them. I'm on the front lines of this war, and I'm a literal soldier by standing here with my son. And it's obviously not literal war, and it's not a literal soldier, but they do take it in that way. And so the stakes in their mind are, and there are real life stakes at play in all of the protests that I document. There's always validity to some degree, I think, in what's being said, right? Agree, disagree, whatever. But then within that, there's also this culture of shutting down opposing voices. So to even entertain a conversation is traitorous, right? And that was my initial cancellation, was because I tried to platform Chris Sky by speaking with him, by having an interview. Of course, his platform was 10 times the size of mine. So it was nonsensical right at the outset. If anything, he was platforming me. But there was something that was perceived as so threatening to sit down and have a dialogue. Whether it would have been a constructive dialogue or not is really beside the point. I was canceled for the thought of doing that.
And those are your followers that were upset some of that too, right? I mean,
no, my followers were excited to see this. It was a subset, I suppose, of followers who had an interest in making sure that Chris Sky wasn't sort of perceived in any other way than an actual terroristic threat. And I don't think that he ever was that.
He's a lot
of things, but he wasn't that, right? And it is ironic because it completely backfired, and that was sort of my second juncture where I'm like, okay, now I really either pack it in and go be normal, or let's take this show on the road. And again, here I am.
Here you are. You found yourself inside a roofing garage. It smells like cannabis. right? What a journey it's been.
There's nowhere else I'd rather be.
I appreciate that.
What do you think the government? I mean, obviously you can't answer for them, but do you think that they're allowing all of this stuff to? I mean, obviously they have no choice, but it seems like there's no dialogue from them either. I mean, case in point, the convoy. All the people wanted was a discussion with Trudeau, and Trudeau refused. He wouldn't take any sort of, not even like meet with member like Caryma and a few other people wanted to meet and just have a discussion about this. And they're all my body, my choice until the vaccine came out, right? So. Well, I wonder if the government loves this divide, or is there any incentive for the government to try and aid in these discussions at all?
The government is fermenting this divide. The government is paying for part of this divide. And I say that not lightly or loosely, and I'm not a hyperbolic person. Quite literally, there is taxpayer money that goes into some of these organizations who then put out material that is intended to cause division between citizens. And often it's under the guise of unity and anti-hate and anti-racist, but you scratch the surface just a little bit, and the practical effect is causing division between people. And that's my observation. That's my experience. Obviously, we have different levels of government and different parties involved and so on and so forth. But as for the federal level and who's been in power, I would say that they have a hand in creating the current landscape.
And I believe they also pay influencers too. Like they've openly said that during COVID, they use influencers at large accounts that would, wanted to promote the health restrictions and the mandates. And then I find that some of these influencers you see, they just blow up really quickly, and they're really pushing either a conservative or a liberal. I think people always ask me who's paying you. I'm like, nobody. You ever heard my mouth on here? No one's paying for this, right? I'm like, I might be getting paid to shut the fuck up. But
right, I would entertain those offers.
Yeah,
they've not been made to me yet, but try harder to bribe me.
You're saying payment. You're saying
say best damn roofer is handsome and good looking, the best roofer in the world. I'll give you $100 live on TV, right?
Because you have been accused online of receiving payment for what you do, but
from Israel.
Most of the things I see, when you're out there, you seem to take a neutral approach. Obviously, in your posting, you kind of take some jabs. That's what journalism is about. But so what do you say to those people that are like, yeah, Caryma is funded by XYZ, and both sides are basically saying you're funded by that side or whatever, right? So
yeah, I mean, I do accept donations, right? Like crowdfunding. People help subsidize some of the out-of-pocket costs, the time, the software, the editing, all of that. So I will take anyone's money. That's how I resolve that, by taking everyone's money and then treating everyone just like whatever. I take your money and I don't care. So it doesn't come with the strings that some people might assume, right, or want to be the case. And I maintain that just by continuing to go out on the ground. And if people are skeptical or don't feel comfortable, not it's fine. You don't have to consume my content. You don't have to agree with it or it. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter.
Well, I think a lot of people think oh, we're getting paid by they say CBC or CTV because a lot of it comes from jealousy because they use some of your photos, right? So you're always in there. So sometimes they're not there, and you catch the best thing, they're going to use you. So some people
I'm better than you, right?
Best damn journalist right here.
So what would it take for a CBC or one of those companies to come to you and say, hey, we will give you X amount of dollars, but you have to also sway your political opinions and your content towards pro-liberal or pro-democratic, ideas?
Yeah, that's something that I'm not really open to entertaining. I'll happily offer a licensing fee for specific footage, or if the footage is already widely available, by all means, share it, disseminate it. That's not an issue. But I am committed to trying to understand whatever this phenomenon is, and that's not conducive to having sort of an outcome already predetermined, right? So that swaying, it's just, I'm not an influencer. I'm not influential in that way. I'm just calling it like I see it.
I beg to differ. You influence a lot of people.
Well, hopefully for good.
Yeah, for good. No, but you really do. I mean, that's when you're putting yourself out there and people are seeing what you're doing. You're influencing in a good way. I'm not saying. I mean, I'm an influencer too, and that's why sometimes like I don't really people. I don't.
Bad way though.
Well, that's I'm an under the influencer, right? That's kind of like that's my hashtag, right? And I don't realize that like a big following. So I get people coming to me all the time, like, oh, I followed this, I do this because you did it. I'm like, I gotta be careful what I say online because there's some of it's comedy that I do, right? I'm a little, I got like the angel and the devil on both sides, right? So the best damn roofer, you can, I really don't drink my own urine at 7 a.m. I wait till 9 p.m. Right? Come on.
There's a passage from a George Orwell book where he's describing like this judge and how it's the best judge in the county. And it's because the judge would just accept bribes from everyone and then decide the case on the merits. And I see myself in that.
Okay.
Now, I have a question. Now, you don't have to answer this, but there was a time that me and you were in conflict, right? And you had your scooter stolen, and there was an individual that said he did it in the name of Mr. Freedom, and you posted that. He's like, Mr. Freedom, like told me to steal your scooter. Was that real?
He didn't say Mr. He
I was like, did you guys
called
edit
your
that?
name. He called your name, and to be fair, he wasn't the one who stole the scooter.
Oh,
The scooter
okay.
was stolen while we were in like the fisticuffs.
Because I just want to
by
clarify that
another
I never,
person.
I never.
No,
I
I don't believe that you dispatched anyone. However, he did have you in his mind, and he threw a beer on me. And then we were arguing, and then in the midst of that, some other third party came and stole the scooter. So that's not on you. The beer throwing also is not.
I would
on
never
you.
waste beer, and I would never steal. Okay,
so
like, just to have the record set, right?
People are responsible for their own actions, right? At the end of the day.
I just remember seeing that video. I'm like, did they pay that person, or that really happened?
No, that
I
was
just
real.
okay.
That
I
was
just
real.
always wondered about that.
And I was supposed to get payment for the scooter as part of their criminal proceedings wrapping up, and then it just never, our system failed me.
Oh, it does. Yeah, welcome to Canada. We will fail you, guaranteed.
Yeah. Has there been any other things similar to that where you were like, oh boy, this is about to go terribly wrong? And you were like legitimately worried? Because obviously watching some of these people are right in your face, yelling,
spitting,
like, and they don't even know why you're there, or that doesn't even seem, they don't even have like an actual understanding of who you are. They just know that you're there, you have a camera, and you're a threat.
Or worse, they think they know exactly why I'm there and who I am, and will not be swayed from that position. I think that's the scariest.
And I'm guilty of that too. I just like if someone gave me what I thought was your position, right?
And you trust that person, and they may not even have been malicious in saying it, right? They may have been trying to look out for you.
It was more than one at the time, right? It was more than one person. So like everyone was and when you get into these rallies and stuff, you're in defense mode, right? It's fight or flight, right? So I mean, I'm guilty of it. I've been there, so I tell you exactly how that happens. People are very easily misled, and that's, I think, with all the stuff I've done on social media, it's made me a lot smarter to like how to deal with people online, or like someone says something, take it with a grain of salt, figure it out yourself. Don't because I jump on this idea that I thought you were, someone else told me. It's like assuming something, and it makes an ass out of it. Both of us. Well, maybe not you, maybe just me. Make an ass out of myself, right? When you assume, right? I'll let you off the hook on that one. But no, it's very you can see how dangerous when you get group mentality in together, and that's how people get beat down, right?
Play out in real time all the time, where I could be actually having a nice dialogue with someone, and then another person will like sweep in and, don't you know who that is? Don't talk to them, and then poison that individual just with a few words.
That's exactly what happened to me. And that's exactly how it started.
There's very much an us and them mentality at protests, right? So if you're not very clearly and unequivocally with us, then you're an enemy, right? And so there's not really a lot of space for anything that even is close to neutral or impartial, and I strive for that. So I'm really battling against the odds here, but I think that it is a worthy endeavor because there's not a whole lot of it, and there's so much kind of opinion interspersed, whether it's legacy and mainstream media or independent media, and that's just not my jam. So it's, I don't necessarily take it personally, even if it is deeply personal. And I just keep showing up. That's, it is, you just keep showing up.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, I don't think we've touched on this a little bit, but you would think that people that know who you are and if they feel so strongly in their messaging that they would utilize your platform to say what they want to say coherently and respectfully, and then hoping that you would show that to the public, right? Instead of being like, don't talk to her. Like, what you're there screaming with signs.
Yeah, but you're assuming that the objective of that particular protest is to raise awareness or is to spread some sort of public good messaging, right? And that's not always the purpose of a protest. And there are times where we're specifically targeted because whatever group has their own cameras, right? And they have their own narrative that they're planning to push, and our presence disrupts that. And we're catching things that they don't want seen, and so then it becomes an actual threat to whatever objective they're pursuing. So it's because the intentions aren't always benign. That's how because logically, sure, I'm going to amplify whatever your message is to hundreds of thousands of eyeballs, but.
And well, like when we first meet you, people are scared of you because you're a lawyer. So there's like, even my perception when I first was encountering you and engaging with you, to like be very careful, and someone's nervous around you. So this is the funny part. So like you're very comfortable at speaking. You're very good at speaking. I mean, you have to be if you're going to be a lawyer, I think. And I've watched you work on people, and I'm like, just don't talk to her. That's another thing, because you're not smart enough. You're going to say something stupid, and she's going to put it on Instagram, and you're going to look like an idiot. Right. That's just, I mean, I've done the same to people too. Right. But I mean, that's kind of, I think people actually like, there's only two emotions in a human being is love and fear. And I think you bring the fear out in people. They're scared, and they say the wrong thing. And a lot of people aren't comfortable in front of a camera. Right. Yeah. And then once that,
also gravitate toward the camera.
It's weird.
It is weird, like, it doesn't make any sense.
So I did the same thing with fighting against, because I had a strong opinion against pride in schools and stuff. And I get a camera on someone, I'm very comfortable, but then I just get them talking, and then I can like literally edit a video and make you look like a complete clown. I had arguments with lesbian teachers that are like, oh, they're the one that dragged me to the bathrooms and wanted me to go pee. And I'm like, you're teaching kids and you're trying to take me into the bathroom so I can go pee in front of your daughter. Right? This is amazing. I just keep talking, right? I'm videotaping it. And then, of course, she's really upset because the video comes out, and I edit it properly too. And I know what I want to say before I go, and just like you got your.
Well, I let the protest guide me. And I mostly will publish. It's not like total raw footage where it's like 4 hours straight live stream and there's no editorial thought to it.
Nobody can digest that. People need 13-second reels.
But I'm also, I really try hard not to be unfair or to misrepresent people. And sometimes there are just funny situations where it's like, sorry, like you're going to look like a jackass because you were acting like a jackass.
Like me? Can we show up the picture that she actually drew it's our podcast thing.
It became our podcast.
So
yeah, I was trying to.
You do a lot of comics, right? So that's the thing we want to talk
about. So yes, but there's different ways.
So you make comics, right?
I commission the comics, so I think of the ideas, and then I work with people more talented than me.
I was lucky enough to be one of those comics. So that was our logo was actually your artwork. So I just want to say thank you for that. So
pleasure.
Yeah, we use it every day. You're not going to charge us again for it. Just one time payment.
No, one time fee.
All right.
I'm fair.
I'll get a tattoo of it then.
I'm fair.
Yeah, I legit tried to find the actual.
Oh, that girl. I love you.
That was the best day of my life.
Yes. Can we go back to that?
That was the best day of my life.
What's that?
She was like the queen of Canada, right? Now, this was a crazy story. This woman actually went across the country saying she was the rightful bearer of all land in Canada. Was her thing? And she was the queen of Canada. And she was an Indigenous woman, correct?
I think she's Filipino.
Okay, so even better. Yeah, that makes sense.
One before that.
So the Philippines, yeah.
That's sardine. So it was like probably 30 degrees out. And she just emerges from this RV where
Who paid for all this? That's crazy, right?
Well, her followers are in a cult.
This lady
here. Okay.
Yes.
And what's her name?
That is Romana Didulo.
And what's her deal?
She's the queen of Canada.
She's the queen of Canada. She has sort of a QAnon vibe going on. And so that particular photo was taken outside the Peterborough police station, where her followers were prepared to arrest the entire police force. They did not succeed in that mission. And in fact, a few of them were arrested. But at lunchtime, she emerges from her RV. That's how she travels across the country. She gets RVs and sort of has her following with her at all times. And she comes out with just packages of sardines and some cut vegetables, and she's like, "Eat." And
Mm.
there were bottles of water that were not sealed.
Oh,
They were
wonderful.
unsealed bottles of water. I did not consume any of this, by the way. And probably about 40 minutes after this, there was like a shift change, and yeah, they went to the back of the police station and tried to break in to the cop
Wonder
shop.
what they put in that water. Like they all put like
That's what my and
MDMA or like
I regret not keeping a bottle to get like a sample.
PCP. So they're like, yeah,
I
put some
don't know.
PCP and make these bastards
Everyone
take over the police department.
everyone lost it and then just started trying to arrest the police. And
As I'm pouring
Why?
water out
What
of a
was the issue
potion
going
bottle.
on there that she
Um,
felt the need to be arrested?
I think that their reason was COVID crimes.
Yes, yeah, it was.
So I don't know that they were very
Citizens
specific.
arrest.
Yeah,
It
but
was
it was like a
citizens
citizen's
arrest.
arrest. But it was like amazing because they were in this vestibule initially trying to, and the police locked the doors, right? Like they were not interested in engaging. And so he called 911 from the vestibule and he's like, "We're outside. Can you let us in?" It was the best day of my life.
So people were asking, like, I remember at the time, they're like, "This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go arrest all the police officers." Like, you want to come? I'm like, I'm not fighting the cops. Like, they have guns and badges. Like, this isn't like that's not how you're. It's not gonna work out for your favor. You guys are gonna get arrested. I've seen this before, right? Like, I'm not doing that. I remember seeing that when, wow, what happened to our world, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this guy here. That's the protest mania one I like. He's the guy giving you the middle finger.
Boomer. Yeah.
So the boomers who now, can you tell me one of the craziest moments out of all this, like the one that is like in the the top one that you say that was the wildest day out of all the protests? There's got to be one that takes the cake.
Okay, so it is for sure the Peterborough Police Station.
Yeah.
If I had to pick another one, I mean, I don't know if this is the craziest, but this is just sort of fresh on my mind. But the last Canada First protest, so the one that took place on June 10th, 2026, was really just like surreal to watch unfold because you had this relatively small group of protesters, and prior to them being counter protested on a regular basis, they weren't drawing a huge crowd. It was kind of, it just
And this is Canada First.
yeah, Canada
Yeah.
First, right? It was like a small gathering, and then they might march a little bit.
I've seen the videos. I
And
followed too.
so and then that they were doing their thing. But at a certain point, and I attribute it to a Toronto councillor calling it out as a hate rally, and then that sort of sent the bat signal out to the community organizations and the unions to organize a counter protest, and then that provided cover for people who were dressed in black bloc and looking to commit violence. And so all of that happened in September of 2025. And then in January, there was sort of another iteration of it. Sorry, there was one in October, and then there was another one in January, and they're getting like increasingly heavy police presence, increasingly large counter protests.
I've seen the police actually, they were doing a live about it. The cop was telling everyone, like, they're giving you like behavioral speech.
Yeah, the police are always like, respectfully, a few steps behind in sort of how they are trying to manage this phenomenon, and aren't always doing the best job. I'm sorry to say.
It's okay.
But the one on in January, it was surreal because we were watching in real time these counter protesters like block police, like link arms. We're not going to move off the road to let these guys march. And then, again, it predictably doesn't end well. And just the amount of resources that go into this, like the millions and millions and millions of dollars for a totally unproductive pursuit, is actually quite sickening. And that's another thing that keeps me on this beat, because it can't, it's not sustainable. This isn't sustainable. It's either going to result in like us bankrupting ourselves,
which is already there,
right?
Canada's already there.
Kind of already at that point. And I foresee a repression of civil liberties. And, that'll be across the board, and we're all going to lose because there are individuals among us who are selfish and stupid. And so that's another sort of like, because this ushers in legislation that is potentially draconian, or is going to suppress more rights, and
Yep.
it's because we for whatever reason have lost the common sense of, this is acceptable behavior in public, this is not. And police, in executing their duties or not executing their duties, are taking a path of least resistance, and they're treating this just as simple crowd control. But it isn't always that, especially if you have people who are purposely showing up to shut others up.
Well, the unions are getting involved in this. Like you mentioned
Very
that earlier.
heavily.
So like when I protested for my school's the school board for my kids, when I was upset with the curriculum change, it had nothing to do with homosexuality or pride. I was showing up for the curriculum for my kids, which I didn't approve of, and then I didn't like it. So my buddy's like, dude, he works for a certain, I'm not going to say who he is, but he's a mutual friend of me and Mark's. He's like, they're they're calling the union to go protest you about your kids at the thing. So this whole, you guys were there. I believe you're
At the Durham.
it was in St. Catharines.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And that was put on by the school board union. They were using they're calling their troops because the father didn't approve of the sexualized curriculum for his 5-year-old child.
Yeah, and so there are like listservs that, so email communication, and it isn't always a fair representation of what it is that's being protested. And the language of hate, I think, is overused, and used irresponsibly to paint, like, tarnish
Me as resurgence of hate. Then the front of the newspaper in Toronto Star, they got my face, resurgence of hate. Like I'm like, I love my kids. I choose to use a different headline, but I mean, I did have it out with that you guys filmed that too. I had it out with that reporter. Yeah, they never wrote it again. They kept me out of their mouth for a while there. So,
well, that newspaper doesn't exist anymore either, right?
well, actually, they got that one shut down too. That one that was coming after us.
Was it the
Welland?
Tribune?
No,
The
it was
Standard.
the Pelham one.
Okay.
The Standard's done too.
Oh,
No
wow.
more Standard.
So I think it might be online.
I always called the substandard. I thought it was
The
funny.
media landscape is in dire straits, and you can't ignore that there is public money that is being put into that as well, and that does, I think, influence kind of the direction things go.
You're putting your tax, so you pay taxes so they can protest against you when you protest. It's like a rat race, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got to pay my taxes so they can bring police out to my peaceful protest. It costs $1.3 million.
So where do we go from here? Like, what do you think? Is there any sort of way for people to come to common ground in that respect? Like,
We're doing it right now.
Oh, I know you guys.
Yeah.
But how do we get more of this to happen? Where obviously you guys talked well before. This isn't the first time that you guys have been talking, but like a side that shows up to throw shit at the other and vice versa. How can they reach common ground, or is it even possible?
I don't know that it's possible kind of in the current status quo. What would need to change is like, there has to be some level of openness and good faith. And that is in short supply. And that can't come if people are in their own mindset of, us, them, enemy, good guy, bad guy. Like, and it's all quite, this is professional wrestling, and that's how I'm interested in this, but it's also like, no, stop. Like, the world is more complex than that. So I think that for like many, like, it takes an incident, something that happens to them or someone they know, right? That kind of unravels the tapestry of nonsense. Like, I don't know if I'm expressing that, but like, it's you peak because something happens to you, and then you suddenly see the world a little bit differently, right? And maybe you're now ostracized from your chosen group, or you've kind of encountered that in some way, and then that makes you more receptive. Certainly that was something that I experienced. And it also is, you just got to keep doing your own thing, right? And if your thing involves trying to shut down other people, maybe that's something to rethink. That's not productive and it's not democratic. Regardless, like it's just not, right? Like we have a system of laws. And that's kind of the other thing. I think this doesn't change without some level of top down, like shift in the approach, particularly frontline police. We have a very clear criminal code, and it's, in my view, being selectively enforced.
Yeah,
And so that emboldens bad behavior. So the more that happens, right? Like it. So what do? We call on our authorities to do their jobs. I think that's a big part of it. How do we, like, I don't know, I'm not a magician. I don't have the lever to make that happen. But my contribution is just showing people what's happening. And oftentimes people will see the same video and then come to completely different conclusions about what it means or what it represents or who was right and who was wrong. And that's all fine. I think that is like, that's fine, as far as dialogue. But I don't know, just getting out of our own heads a little bit more. That's I don't have an answer.
And is
But
there a group? I don't know if you want to name them, but is there a group that you think of that you're like, this is just a completely pointless thing to protest, or do you kind of just
come on, you can
let me
say
just pick which
canceled.
enemy I want to.
I'm your lawyer on this one. You can say whatever you want. I'll give you the Roofers Amendment here.
I mean, no, it's no secret that
Freedom
a lot of
movement.
my no, a lot of my reporting relates to the Antifa movement, and that's because I've had occasion to witness in a very firsthand way what their tactics are and how they're used and deployed. And um, I think that there are power structures that support precisely their MO. And that is just not good for society. So it's tricky because they've named themselves, right? Antifa, short for anti-fascist. Who wants to be pro-fascist, right? And that's kind of the rhetorical device that is immediately, well, what are you? You in favor of the fascists? Like, no. But also, what a weird thing to frame yourself as just oppositional to something else, right? Instead of being something for yourself.
Well, that's what online has done to people. So like everything's so polarizing. And one to say you got someone that he puts up a Ukraine flag, and then someone that doesn't believe it, and then so they could have same values on 20 different things, but
Mhm.
that one thing,
Mhm.
it's all over. And
Yeah.
it's like go time. So like you just see that online. It's consistent, like,
Mhm.
and I think it's done purposefully. Like
Yeah.
it's like the government will put stuff out there. They know you're going to be upset about this one, so let's make a new law that does, drag show for kids. It has to be done. They just put this stuff in here to divide, right? It's done over and over again.
And then there's social pressures where if you don't disavow someone, who has the wrong thought on this, like you somehow are bad and tainted as well.
Cancel.
Yeah. So you've nailed it, right? That is what it's a very destructive, like corrosive culture. But it can only impact so much. Like, I'm not going to downplay the real world or real life impacts. But if we opt out, right, like you can't fully insulate yourself, but you can choose not to play that game.
Yeah.
Right. And we're ultimately all neighbors, right? We're
Yeah.
all kind of in this together, right? Like
Follow
we're
the
stuck
10
here together at least.
Follow the 10 Commandments.
That's the thing. Shouldn't we all be Canada first? You know what I mean? I get that it's its own sort of thing, but every one of these people that are out there protesting, shouldn't that be their first, thing? Is like thinking about us together,
yeah.
the community, the country we live in, And I think does every group just assume that that's what they are doing? Like Antifa thinks that they're looking after their best interests of Canada.
I think, yeah, everyone thinks that they are the community and represent the broader community and have sort of that best interest in mind. How closely that aligns to reality is a different question altogether.
Misguided society, right? We went from a country that was, faith-based. Everyone, 50 years ago had structure and had accountability through their, usually church or religion in Canada. And that's kind of dissolved. I think it's making a comeback. But that's the downfall of society is, I mean, just simple structure.
Yeah, I
Now.
think we've replaced sort of one religion with others,
Yeah.
right? And there is like something to be said where like there's a sweet spot of pluralism, I think, and being able to follow your own conscience and not be bound by like the very strict, okay, if we think back, single mom, and now you're going to be like ostracized from the community, right? Like that's not ideal either. So I don't think that like a regression to that precisely is it. But this isn't it
No.
either. So I don't know.
And how do you and your husband
Are you guys married? Yeah. You married?
or your partner, however you want to call it, how do you guys make it work? Because you guys are completely supposed to be very different from each other. You being a Muslim, him being Jewish. You guys have made it work, right? So why can't these people make it work? Why can't we all just make
How
it
the
work?
fights at home? They must be like, it's just crazy at home. When you guys go like, oh yeah, because right? Yeah, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Obviously, you probably have differing, opinions on things, and you can obviously make it work. And so, how do you manage that?
I don't know. Like that's a good question. Yes, I think we all have differences, right? If you're constantly in agreement with anyone else on 100% of things, like you're probably in a cult, and that's not good.
I just left one. I just left the Masons. Thanks for bringing it up. They're out to get me. And about 10,000 men in aprons looking for me. You're my new lawyer, right?
I don't no, right? So like there should be some level of disagreement that we are comfortable with, and it's okay to be uncomfortable in those moments of disagreement, right? So that's kind of part one. And then when you do like it's what's your moral compass? If you can be on the same wavelength as far as like what are your values, then I think the individual issues, right? It's all kind of immaterial. So I don't know that that answers it, but just like we're just be cool.
Yeah.
That's what it comes
Be
down
cool.
to.
Yeah, there we go.
It just
I
goes
like
back
that.
to me. It's like sort of an interesting parallel that you guys show up to, a protest together, and obviously, I'm sure you and your partner have separate views on many things, and like you said, you can come to terms with that and just move past it. But then you show up to these places and you see these guys can't come past their own beliefs or entertain the thought that, because even though they have different opinions and thoughts at me, that I can still respect that person and allow them to have those thoughts and views, and we all live together like we used to.
I got to deal with this guy all the time.
That's right.
Right,
Everybody
literally.
can disagree on many things, obviously.
And he's dead wrong all the time. Right.
That's okay. Not that I did wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen it go both ways where like some people become increasingly radicalized in this space and like even more intransigent in their views, and like nothing will shift them, and they become unreachable effectively. And then I've also seen people kind of open up, and people who, didn't like me before can now at least engage with me, and right.
Yeah.
So we are an illustration of success here. It's a cultural phenomenon, right? So how do you change a culture? I don't think it changes from the top down. But it's an internal thing, right? So you have conversations that are uncomfortable with your parents or your cousins or your, coworker. Like, I mean, to a certain degree, right? Because how much are you going to stick your neck out for just in order for it to be chopped? But I think that there's a lot of people who are actually fed up with this, and fed up with the very vocal minorities on whatever extreme of the spectrum, and just don't know that they have a safe place to express that. So be that safe place. That's my
Yeah, I like
thought.
that. But I also like when I hear of these different organizations, I always want to know what their deal is. So before I pass judgment and say, well, this group A, I can't stand them because they believe X, Y, and Z. I always want to know why they think that way, and then try and form my own opinion. And then if it really bothers me, then fine. But otherwise, I'm just like, who gives a shit?
Well,
Like,
if you don't want to like have, don't put it online. If you have an opinion and you don't want people to shit on it.
Yes.
Like, so I made a statement about, I used to follow Donald Trump, and I was always, but I retracted it. So I said I was wrong. I think I don't think any politician is in my favor. I don't think he's a billionaire that I've never met. He's a stranger to me. I don't think I trust him with my family or any government official at that matter. And 3,000 followers gone. Conservative, you're a piece of shit. You're a fucking scumbag. I'm like, I just don't think, I don't know him. I said I found faith in Jesus Christ, and then everyone's mad at me. But then it's the weirdest thing. So like, why would I even bother saying anybody? That's why people won't say anything. That's why they go radical, because they stick to it, because they don't want to backstep it, because if they do, there's huge backlash.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I'm not afraid to say I was wrong. I think I lost a lot of faith in like Donald Trump when he started pushing the vaccine. I'm like, he's promoting a vaccine. It kind of goes against how I feel. And then, then you get to the point where we're just, we have a billionaire in power here and they have a billionaire in there. I'm like, I don't think any of these billionaires are on my side. And if you say that, you're like, you have to stick to your opinion, or you're ridiculed.
And
so
it's certainly not helping with the divide. Like when you hear Donald Trump talk, and he uses terms like radical left, and like he's not bringing people together. He's pushing. He's dividing.
They do it they're all on the same team. That's what I'm like, I was fooled. I'm like, George Carlin's said it best. He's like, they're all on the same team, and guess what? They're not. It's not your team.
And I'm not saying that Donald Trump. He does use ridiculous terms, and so did the Democrats. But if you want to bring your people together, calling them names.
Yes, name calling is not an effective way to build unity. Just on that point, though, like we haven't really broached the fact that on the online sphere, it's even hard to say how much of it is real, right? How much of it is one person operating multiple accounts or bot farms or whatever, right? And that also kind of, if there's that perception of I say something and I'm going to receive backlash, whether or not the backlash is real, that still has a chilling effect. And it
stops people from doing what it controls people. These bot farms are real. I mean, that you see, you can tell which ones are like bots, but who knows with AI, they can. It's endless what they can do on social media, and you get lost in it. And it's like a type of brainwashing. Basically, they can put anything in your algorithm, your feed that you see, so they can change your opinion on a lot of stuff. Right? I even noticed from this conversation, and what will happen, you'll probably end up getting roofing stuff, and I'll end up getting it's weird how these things, and then like these things aren't our friends. These phones, they literally have like biblical drawing on the back of the apple being bitten, like the knowledge, the tree of knowledge of the serpent and Adam and Eve. It's like, yeah, there it is right there for you, right? I mean, it's used to divide human beings.
Screens in our pockets that we
like surveillance devices
and carry around, and
it costs thousands of dollars. Like, we pay thousands.
We pay for the privilege.
Imagine that, like it's like 20 or 200 years ago, like we're gonna have these humans so stupid they're gonna pay for surveillance. These goofs, right?
And the other thing is the shift in what you can say and do online. And people just creating memes and creating completely false narratives and putting it out there, and there's just no recourse, there's no repercussions for it. So the one headline I saw, and like you can scroll through them, and I'm sure you see them too. It's like, what was it? It was like Charlie Kirk's wife, or Erica Kirk, is pregnant, and it's Candace Owens' baby.
It's Alex Jones saying it.
No, but it looked like this, like out of a magazine.
Yeah.
People are like, no way, people are actually going to believe that, and then start scrolling that, whatever it was. This is a clickbaited title, right?
But those won't get removed from social media, right? Like
that's my point. And like there are people that scroll through these and they're like, no way, there's no way it's true, and then they read it.
But that stays there. They allow it to stay there, right? And then I'm gonna do a flat Earth meme, and they take it down. I get charged with misinformation. I'm like, hey man, if I want to believe do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a weird thing.
It is a weird thing to believe that.
Well, it's a weird thing that you take that post down, but meanwhile you can do whatever else. But that one thing about flat Earth, they hate. And then they hated the vaccine. So all my restrictions were put on my Mr. Freedom page was either about vaccines or about flat Earth.
Well, our virtual public square is controlled by
a robot,
private like billionaires, right?
Yeah.
So
but billionaires care for us, right? They really care for our well-being, right? Tell me I'm right.
But I'm just saying it's harder and harder to discern what is actually real. Like they can even skew what a public figure said by a couple of words, even though they might mean the same thing, just to sway somebody's opinion based. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and people aren't reading past headlines necessarily because we're in this deluge of like it's an information overload. And even I now with AI as well, like fake images and fake videos, and it's just. We're kind of cooked.
Oh yeah. Right.
Like even there was that the one shooter, I think it was MSNBC or one of these stations used their photo and they AI'd the person to make them look much nicer.
Yes.
And used that versus the scraggly looking person that he or she was. And they like just sort of doctored it up and used like an AI image just to make it look nicer, right? More presentable.
Well, the AI is just like, it's jaw dropping. You look at it, it's like, this is scary. Now they can make anyone say anything. So now you really don't know if you trust the media, which you probably shouldn't. They can make it do whatever it wants. Like they have full control over that box. And I always talk about, like, my dad used to say this to me. He's like, I remember when I was young, the preacher, telling you at church that box you're putting in your home in the 50s is a terrible device. It's the control. It's the dark. It's black magic. It's the devil's work. And it's like, everyone's like, no, it's not. I got to watch this and that. And then, like, fast forward 70 years and we're all like, let's go kill each other down at the Canada First rally, right? Like, yeah, they were right. The preacher was right in the 50s, right? He nailed it.
So where do you think this is all headed as far as journalism goes, and like the way everyone has a camera now? So like mainstream media, eventually in the next 5 to 10 years, people going to be watching the news, or is everyone just going to go to Twitter and go to whoever they're following? Maybe Caryma or this guy beside you.
Hey, be nice. You almost called me an asshole. It was on the tip of your tongue.
We are heading, I think, straight off a cliff. But okay, let's be positive for a second. There is sort of a democratization in people recording for themselves and sharing their own perspective. And okay, it may not have some of the same, like, it may not meet the ideal criteria or ethics of journalism, but like, are the journalists even doing that right now anymore anyway? I don't know, I'm trying hard to be positive.
Welcome to Canada. Right?
I got nothing.
Okay.
and we're canceled.
Well, that's cool. What I basically want to do for this episode is just sort of introduce you to people that may not know who you are, and if they don't, then they live under a rock. But and then maybe future episodes we'd love to have you back on, and we can really dig into more specifics and things that you're doing. So
well, they've been helping. You guys have been helping us out a lot too, with Bam Bam, the movement against the pedophiles in our neighborhood. So you guys have documented a few of those events.
Those have been really interesting because it's
it feels like you're doing good.
You're taking it to the neighborhood, right? And the reactions to that are interesting because you'll have some people who are like really strongly in favor of that, and see it kind of as
protection.
Yeah, and sort of like, I think, what it's intended to be. And then there are also people who say, well, this is going to scare kids in the neighborhood. This is like vigilante, and I don't think I've seen anything vigilante up to this point.
No, we keep a code of conduct.
Yeah,
I mean, we have to. We're not going to chant and have the nooses hanging from the
right.
pitchforks. No, we're making people aware.
There is one news sign, but yes.
That sweet old lady. Okay, she's a sweet old lady. I mean, it's hard to tell her not to bring the.
I've seen the nooses at the Iranian protests as well. I've seen the guillotines out on Queen's Park for Doug Ford. So we can pick, like, people pick and choose when they want to be outraged over sort of.
I mean, it's kind of easy to get behind like a child crime. Like there's the little kid that was brutally raped, a 3-year-old child. It's a baby, right? I mean, there definitely needs to be something done to the system so we can protect our children more, and then the people that are committing these heinous crimes can be locked away for a longer time. I mean, I grew up in St. Catharines when Paul Bernardo was out kidnapping teenagers, and it was like the whole community got behind this. It was massive, and now it's like one kid goes missing, our whole world stopped in 1991, I think it was, or 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And now they say how many people go missing, nobody even cares. It might be a post on Facebook, but it's what the world has drastically changed in the last.
My dad was the principal at Holy Cross when Kristen French was about.
Oh man, terrible time, right?
He had to go through all that and deal with the parents, and I remember that time was
rough. And I think of it often how much it was different back then. Like I remember living in fear. My ex-wife Tanya, the cops were following kids to school. There was like this big community reach, and now fast forward 20 something years, and everyone, we're going out on the streets to protest that these rapists are let back into society. It's changed so much, and I think that's part of the politics. We know the politics have actually turned against people, right? And that's why it's good that we have people like you that go out and put people to challenge their views, right? And I want to say thank you for having you again. It was a wonderful time. I'm gonna cook you some good steak today. I'm gonna cook you dinner, and I want to say thanks again. And I do want to sincerely apologize for all the harsh
No
words I
apologies
said.
needed.
And I hope to have you back someday.
Cheers.
Yeah, let's do it again. And thank you, everybody. I know there's people throwing questions in the chats and stuff, but I didn't really want to get into that. Like I said, I wanted to bring Caryma on, introduce her to our audience, and then hopefully, like I said, we can dig into some topics or pick some other things for the next one if you want to come back, and we'll get into the nitty gritty.
So cancel your subscription to CTV and follow her.